Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a monumental shift in global education, and it was all sparked by one absolutely extraordinary individual. We're going to explore the life, the mission, and the incredible, enduring legacy of Isabella Thoburn. You know, back when access to formal education for girls was incredibly rare, she pioneered a movement in India that basically shattered historical barriers and threw open doors that had been firmly shut for generations. Okay, let's dive right into this and see how her vision completely changed the landscape of higher learning.
It's a massive question, right? Seriously, how did one woman change the entire course of education in Asia? We're talking about the 19th century here, a time locked in strict cultural norms, where the very idea of educating women was usually met with deep, deep suspicion. And yet, through just unwavering faith, massive compassion, and a super clear educational vision, this one person sparked a legacy that is still thriving today. We're going to unpack exactly how she pulled that off.
So, to really understand her impact, we're going to follow her journey. We'll look at her call to serve, what it was like starting with just 6 girls, the founding of Asia's first women's college, the intense challenges and sacrifices she faced, and finally, her lasting global legacy.
Let's start right at the beginning with Section 1, a call to serve.
What is truly wild about her story is just the sheer span of her commitment. Born in 1840 in Ohio, Isabella was raised in a devout Methodist family. From day one, her parents instilled 2 huge values in her: Christian faith and rigorous education. Just look at this timeline for a second. We're seeing a life totally dedicated to one singular mission, from sailing to India in 1869 to founding her groundbreaking college in 1886, right up to her passing in 1901. Think about your own long-term goals for a minute. Committing to one mission for over 3 decades? That takes profound conviction. This wasn't just some passing phase. It was literally a lifelong marathon.
So, what actually acted as the catalyst for this huge journey? Well, she was heavily inspired by her older brother, James Mills Thoburn, who was actually already out in India doing missionary work. When the Methodist Episcopal Church put out a call specifically for female missionaries, Isabella didn't even blink. In 1869, she made the incredibly brave choice to set sail for India. To put that into perspective for the time, she became one of the very first unmarried American women to ever be officially commissioned as a Methodist missionary. She was stepping entirely into the unknown, just totally trusting her calling. And that bold leap of faith brings us to Section 2, starting with 6 girls. When Isabella arrived in Lucknow, India, she hit a wall of cultural friction. The mindset back then was that formally educating daughters was, at best, totally unnecessary, and at worst, actively harmful. But Isabella? She had this radical countervision. She absolutely believed that educating women was the ultimate key to transforming not just a family, but whole communities and entire nations. This is way bigger than just a debate about schools. It was a fundamental clash over human potential. She was directly challenging the core assumptions of her day, confident for sure that educated women would be game changers for society. So with all the odds stacked against her, how did she actually start? With the number 6. Undeterred by the massive pushback, Isabella just went ahead, rented a tiny room, and started teaching. On her very first day, she had exactly 6 students. When you're aiming to change a whole nation, a class of 6 in a little rented room might feel like a drop in the ocean, right? But Isabella totally understood something that's just as true today. Monumental systemic changes almost always start with the smallest, most humble steps. You literally just have to start somewhere. Which brings us to the incredible evolution of that tiny classroom in Section 3, Asia's first women's college. As interest in girls' education slowly started to catch on, Isabella relentlessly expanded her work. That little rented room grew year after year, until Isabella Thoburn College was officially established in 1886. I mean, this is a massive historical milestone. Imagine being there and witnessing the birth of what is widely recognized as Asia's first Christian women's college. It stood out as an absolute pioneer for higher female education in India, proving her radical vision wasn't just some pipe dream. It was real. And she wasn't just teaching the basics either. Her curriculum was incredibly robust. She intentionally wove together academic excellence, Christian values, character development, and real leadership training. And the results? Absolutely extraordinary. Look at what her graduates went on to do. They became teachers, physicians, social reformers, government officials. By mixing high academic standards with a real focus on serving society, she was basically building a powerhouse pipeline of capable female leaders who were ready to go out and shape their nation. Her holistic approach covered the whole shebang,
from basic literacy all the way up to advanced teacher training and women's leadership. But honestly, the most striking thing about her method was just how she treated people. In a society that was highly divided by class, Isabella treated every single student with absolute dignity, regardless of their background. Her classroom was the ultimate equalizer. It's such a great reminder for us today about the power of creating spaces where everyone feels truly valued and capable, you know?
Of course, building something this massive doesn't happen without a heavy cost. That brings us to Section 4, Challenges and Sacrifices.
It is super easy to look back at historical figures and only see the highlight reel, right? But her day-to-day reality was incredibly demanding. Being a missionary in the 19th century meant agonizingly long periods away from her family back in the U.S. She had to battle dangerous tropical diseases, push through exhausting cultural barriers, navigate constant financial stress, all while carrying the heavy administrative weight of running a growing college. Yet, despite this massive physical and emotional toll, she just never wavered from her calling.
And through all those intense hardships, she kept her core philosophy front and center: evangelism through education. For Isabella, teaching math or reading was completely inseparable from her faith. She didn't just see her schools as academic buildings. They were vibrant communities, places where students could encounter love, build honest character, and practice compassionate service right alongside their studies. It's a really powerful lesson in making sure your daily operations actually match your highest values, especially when things get tough.
All of this dedication leads us right into our final part, Section 5, A Lasting Global Legacy.
Isabella Thoburn passed away in Lucknow in 1901 at the age of 61. She was buried right there in the country she had served for over 30 years, and her passing was deeply mourned across both India and the U.S. But her influence certainly didn't stop there. Because her work was so successful, she had spent time speaking in both India and the States, rallying churches to support women's missions. Her personal example ended up expanding opportunities for female missionaries all over the world, inspiring a whole new generation of young women to step up and serve. While she didn't leave behind a ton of famous quotes, the sources note that her entire life was basically a reflection of one deep conviction: the love of Christ must be shown through both teaching and service. That wasn't just a catchy motto, it was the literal blueprint of her life. She proved that education isn't just about memorizing facts, it's a massive instrument for social change. And her influence is literally still happening today through the thousands of women educated at the institution that still bears her name.
I want to leave you with a question to chew on. How can investing in just one generation of students influence countless futures? Isabella Thoburn started with just 6 girls in a tiny rented room, fighting all the cultural currents of her time. But her faith, her perseverance, and her vision broke barriers and completely transformed a nation's approach to women's education. It just goes to show that true vision, mixed with personal sacrifice, creates a ripple effect that outlasts us all. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope it sparks your curiosity to dig even deeper into the hidden pioneers of our history.